The phrase big babies has previously been attributed to grown adults who enjoy regressing to a younger age. But over the past few years, the media has highlighted a significant increase of young adults remaining in their parental home. In 2019, the Office of National Statistics reported a 46% rise since 1999 of the amount of 20 to 34-year-olds who are living at home. 3.5 million young men and women are currently living in their family home. But there is no empirical work which would suggest that this rise in co-residence is due to the amount of young people who are returning home or the ones who never left. I returned home to live with my mum after graduating university, and from my experience as a British-born Nigerian, culture does play a part when deciding to return back home. Especially as a female, there are many expectations that we remain at home until we get married. And my family home is in London, so this is the best place for me to be when looking at job opportunities. But not everybody has a choice. Sometimes remaining at home is the only option, especially for young adults who are from low-income households who are constrained by financial factors. But what are some of the reasons why so many young people are choosing to return home? And how is this impacting their family dynamics? Sociologists studying people's activities and behaviours have identified distinct times in a person's life that could give context to this growing trend.
There are various points in people's lives when they're more likely to return to live with their parents. We call these turning points. Basically, this is any kind of change in circumstances that people experience during their life. And this is part of what we call a non-linear life course. So in the past, people would tend to move out of the parental home to get married, they would have children, they'd enter the labour market immediately upon finishing school, and everything happened in a specific order more often. These days, people tend to go through these transitions in a bit more of a random way. And in particular, the transition to adulthood has become longer, it's become more complex and less standard.
It's this one, that one. Just press that.
That's good.
Dominic!
I kind of said to Mum and Dad, it's like I'm on a 6-week holiday with you both, but without the Spanish bars and beaches.
Hola!
I'm Ros Huxley and I work as a fundraiser for Cancer Research UK in the Legacy team.
I'm Chris Huxley, I'm a university lecturer at Oxford University Bournemouth.
My name is Dominic Huxley and I'm a research technician at the University of Manchester. Moving back with my parents at first was quite anticlimactic because I'd spent months and months finding a flat and a job in Manchester and I was kind of the first of my mates to do that, and then suddenly I was back where it all started. But because of the circumstances of coronavirus, it didn't feel like a failure because I'd been forced back home.
Before you did come back, the day before, I wrote up a list and I said to Chris, let's just have, I think we need to establish how this is going to work. Let's have a little list of rules of what's going to happen and what's not going to happen, which we didn't show you, but we did.
And that told me
we have told it now because everything's sorted out, but I was really worried that we would all be rowing and it would be very difficult.
There were a couple tense weeks and I did shout at Mum when I think the tensions of just everything kind of boiled over. I think as well as the struggles of being forced back together as a family, I was battling with, I'm the first of my mates to successfully get a job in a nice flat in Manchester, and I'm back with my parents where it all began, being told to enter the dishwasher, which is fine and I'm happily serving my family duty. But I was trying to battle with that whilst Mum's had to battle with being furloughed, and then having to deal with me. So I think it's kind of, if I just come home because I've been unsuccessful from Manchester and COVID wasn't a thing, I think the tensions would be very different.
Just the two of us.
What has been the benefits really
for both of you for your children leaving really the house?
If it's just the two of us, it's a lot cheaper. Our house is quite large and very costly. We can do what we like at any time. We've relaxed quite a lot of rules, and we can be more spontaneous, just go out, or
Go away.
prior to lockdown, we could just go out of an evening if we didn't want to cook a proper meal. And at another level, you don't have to, as the only woman in a household of men, if I wish, can walk around with no clothes on and no one's going to go, ah!
I do.
From a boat.
Dom's arrangement during the pandemic highlights some of the considerations a young adult will need to be mindful of if they choose to reside in their family home. But for many, housing opportunities is just one of the elements why they choose to live at home with parents after finishing their education. Culture may also play a part too.
There are three main factors influencing the living home pattern of young adults. First of all, the family tradition. Second one is housing opportunity and comfortability at parental house. Third one is the preferences that are very much related to education and lifestyle factors. This stigmatization is not the same for families from different cultural backgrounds. For example, for children from more traditional families, they reproduce their traditions, living with parents all the time. They have limited opportunities, in fact, related to their financial position. But at the same time, they use, in fact, traditional setting and norms to generate structure of support to each other.
My grandparents, has just been a bit difficult to have that just pressure on me 24/7. I haven't really been able to go out and get away from it. My name is Ganeev and I'm an account manager in an affiliate marketing company.
My name is Lena and I'm a yoga practitioner for children.
My name is Bobby and I'm a property investor.
We got engaged, me and my fiance got engaged last September, and we were planning for a wedding to happen this July, and after the wedding is when I would have moved in with him and his family. Unfortunately, because of coronavirus, we have had to postpone the wedding, so it would hopefully be later on in the year. I'm excited to move in with him and like to be able to spend time with him and like live with him, because we haven't really done that before, obviously. And just it's gonna be different for our relationship. Like it's gonna be a change.
Can you help me when you take the clothes inside?
Well, in our culture, usually the girl moves out to go into the boy's house. But yeah, if we had our way, of course we would love her to live with us, with her room.
We do have a choice to an extent, but I think it's because it's expected of us and we don't want to disrespect our families. That's why we are wanting to move in. Well, I am wanting to move in with his family, and it's something that he really wants as well, for us to just, because we haven't lived with each other before, it kind of removes a bit of the burden on us. Like moving out completely and being by ourselves, that's like the first step. Whereas we're living with his family, then we're kind of adjusting to living with each other as we have other people in the house as well. It'll definitely be a change. Well, I'm living with my grandparents at the moment, and he's living with his sister and parents. So it is that change in dynamic and the family and having like the extra people here, I guess. I think most of the expectations are from me, from like the family, and being able to settle in with them and understand how they work, on how everything happens, like on a daily basis, in terms of like cooking, cleaning, like any chores and stuff around the house. But yeah, it's a mixture of like nerves, excitement, anticipation. Like I want to move in with him and start that chapter of our lives.
We have to make ourselves look pretty for the wedding.
So I got married, I was in Delhi in India, and he came from here. And after I got married, I came here straight away, and I lived with them and their family. But I used to live in a joint family too, with my grandparents and parents and brothers. And well, it was very similar when I moved here. He had his grandmother, his sister, and his parents, and I moved in with them. So it was not a massive change for me, as I had these values in me. I mean, I guess that's how we brought her up too.
I think with my grandparents, it's just been a bit difficult to have that just pressure on me 24/7. I haven't really been able to go out and like get away from it.
My name's Amindir Singh Sani. I'm a company director, and I also work for the family business. When Ganeev does move in, which is only really possible after marriage, it's going to be kind of completely up to me and her what our input to the household will be. A bit more of an emphasis on the kind of incoming female to take a bit more of a leading role in the household, duties and chores, I guess you could say. But if I was to contrast that to kind of my situation, is I don't think those kind of individual pressures would be put upon Ganeev. It was always difficult to bring kind of other halves into the house and kind of share any kind of physical intimacy with the parents being in the house. But as my upbringing, like I said, it's been relatively easy, but at the same time, there are kind of unspoken rules, I guess you could say. So no staying over of any partners and kind of things like that. But moving forward now, I think one of the main reasons that me and Ganeev have chosen to move in with my parents is to almost ease into that married life. I don't know her habits or what she likes to eat, when she likes to eat, etc., etc. So it's just going to give us a bit of comfort knowing that I have my parents here, I have my sister here. In terms of what the parents themselves will provide, obviously a house. There are like the financial implications of also moving out are not insignificant. And then, like I said earlier, obviously, instead of just going like from 0 to 100, where it's like I've never really lived away from the house, where most of the time dinner is made for me, most of the time my washing is done for me, my ironing is done for me, etc., etc. It's now going to be me and Ganeev taking that onus that actually we need to start pretty much really to learn how to live like my parents have. So there's that. I guess you could say that they're almost like teachers to us, I suppose. That's almost the role that they're playing silently, whether they know it or not.
Apart from cultural expectations, research has shown that many young adults choose to stay at home for other reasons related to their family models and relationships. There are various reasons why young adults are increasingly choosing to stay at home, and all of them are connected to the support from their families. However, parental support and relationships could take a different form as children decide to achieve their independence by moving out.
My independence was probably shaped by me wanting to define myself away from my family and define who I was as a person on my own. My name is Lisa Hanley and I am a journalist. I left my family home when I was 15 years old. I've always had a very strong sense of independence and a very strong sense of self. So I knew at a very young age that I wanted to kind of explore the world and see beyond the city where I was living. When I was about 13, I started running my own business, and I didn't really know it was a business at the time, but doing hair and makeup at that time gained me financial independence, where I was able to explore and go out and, you know, kind of do things that I wasn't always asking my mum, oh, can I have money for this? Can I have money for that? So that was a really, you know, big contributor to my independence. And from then, when I started gaining clientele, I started running a salon out of my mum's home, and she wasn't okay with that, believe it or not. So I decided to kind of go it alone and rent a chair in a salon and move in with my aunt, who's a hairdresser. And I basically was paying rent and, you know, being independent and, you know, paying my own way like an adult, very, very young. I was working a full-time job when I was in school. So I was turning up to classes late, I was turning up to school late, and it became more of a priority for me to be able to do hair than to be able to go to school. So then my studies declined a bit. And the same thing happened when I kind of went on to college and stuff. But once I got into the mode of having two jobs, working for myself and then working somewhere else and then doing my studies, I kind of learned to juggle more. I would say that was a negative that became a positive, because I understood responsibility. I built a very hard work ethic very early on, by dropping down, making mistakes and failing very early. Moving out very early had a very good effect on the relationship between me and my mum. It actually helped our relationship develop more, and we were able to see each other as adults, and see each other as individuals. I was able to understand her, she was able to understand me more. I think living under the same roof, it was very hard to kind of get past the little, you know, spats that mother and daughters have, to be able to kind of see each other as women. And when I moved out, she was able to see me as a woman, and it's like helped our relationship dramatically. And now we call each other all the time and we're able to check in. She's able to complain on the phone to me. I'm able to complain on the phone to her. And we have we have somewhat of a friendship beyond our mother and daughter relationship.
The expectation of children to be independent after a certain age is still a norm in the mainstream British society, especially for families residing in small cities and rural areas because of the labour market constraints. For many like Matt, the older son of the Huxley family, residential independence is a big part of their freedom.
My name is Matt Huxley and I am a musician and a composer. After I finished studying, I decided not to move back to my parents' house, partly because they sort of said, you've had a great time being a student and now you should go out into the world and make your way. So they kind of pushed me out the front door a little bit.
When our eldest son left, I immediately turned his room into a guest room and painted it white. It was quite harsh really, looking back, but I suppose it was partly because subconsciously I didn't really want them to come back, because the opportunities for young people in a beautiful place like this are really, really, they're very limited. And so if you made it too attractive to come back and DOS, then their career wouldn't take off.
So we took the locks.
No, we didn't change the locks, but we did make it not very attractive. I could see it coming. I saw that happening with other people coming back and thinking, well, all they're going to be able to do really is work in a bar or do holiday work, and that you don't want to make it too comfortable.
If it weren't for trying to pursue music, I think I still would have left, actually, for the reasons of wanting to, you know, become an adult, live your own life. You know, I think independence is just as important, isn't it? It seems to me that what happened was my brother had gone to uni, so they were empty nesters. They at first were quite sad and lonely, and then they got into the swing of it, and then they liked it, and they were starting this new phase of their life, kind of where they'd sort of like finished with parenting a bit, and then we come in and disrupt it. And I think that's probably sometimes nice and sometimes actually quite annoying. It's totally fine for them to establish a new kind of like lifestyle once we're away, and very mildly irritated when that lifestyle gets a bit kind of shaken up. And I know as much as anyone that when I go home, I do have a tendency to not be 28, but to behave like I'm 18.
In the past, my research has shown that young adults have returned home more. Whether this is still increasing is a bit uncertain. It seems likely that it probably has, given the economic circumstances recently. There are really two broad stories going on here. There's the more advantaged young adults who have been more likely to have been to university. And they are often making the choice to move back in with their parents. There's another side to it where there's the young adults who are from less advantaged backgrounds, who perhaps haven't been to university. They're more financially constrained. Young adults have been particularly hit hard by the recession, and at the moment, the coronavirus, with redundancies and loss of work, precarious work, they're the group that's most affected. So I think we've got to try and remember about them too, and think about perhaps how going forward that we can try and help them.
It is clear that there are various factors that can explain the growing amount of young people who are remaining at home. The norm of leaving home when you're 18 in the British society is being challenged by social and economic circumstances, as well as the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The transition into adulthood by gaining residential independence is becoming increasingly difficult, even for those who are privileged to have the choice or not to. So it's important for society to offer some support to these young adults along their journey.